Ever get the feeling like the whole world suddenly zoomed in on your town?
Yeah.
Today, we're really diving into how national politics, the stuff you see on the news, can actually land right on your doorstep. And it shakes things up, oh man, in ways you wouldn't expect.
Right.
We're talking Springfield, Ohio.
Yeah.
Not exactly the first place you think of as, like, a political hotspot, is it?
Not really, no.
But all of a sudden, it's this focal point.
Yeah.
And there's this really intense rhetoric. And a lot of it's directed at the Haitian community there.
Yeah, it's wild how a place that honestly most people probably couldn't even point to on a map, right? Suddenly becomes this like battleground for these huge national debates. It shows you how this stuff, this political rhetoric, especially these days, it just has this ripple effect, goes way beyond just, the usual back and forth.
It's like throwing one of those rocks in a pond. Those ripples just keep spreading out.
Exactly.
And in Springfield, those ripples, they're hitting real people. Families just trying to live their lives. So to understand how big of a change this is, we need to rewind a bit.
Yeah.
Like paint a before picture.
The before picture is crucial. It shows us what life was like, before the spotlight, before things get spun a certain way.
Totally. And we've got this guy, Rinaldi Dessalines. He lives there.
Okay.
And he describes those days as amazing.
Wow.
He was thriving. The Haitian community, they were a part of the fabric of the town. It was just life.
Normal.
And that's what makes the shift so stark.
It's like someone just like flips a switch, and all of a sudden, bam, Springfield's got all this attention, resources, scrutiny, definitely.
Oh, yeah.
You name it.
That's great.
You've got state troopers at schools. You've got these pop-up health clinics appearing out of nowhere. And the fundraising, it's through the roof.
Wow.
And on the surface, you might think, okay, well, that's a good thing, right?
The support
for the community. But it also creates this perception, like an undercurrent, that the situation is way more dire than it might actually be.
It's like everyone's got this magnifying glass all of a sudden.
Right.
Examining every little thing, making judgments.
Totally.
And the pressure, can you imagine?
Intense.
Even for folks who aren't, like, directly targeted, it's got to create this unease,
It's like you're in a room and the music just stops.
Oh, yeah.
And everyone goes silent. You know something's off.
Right.
You don't know what yet. And it makes you think about, like, the bigger picture, too. We're seeing this more and more these days, this feeling of constantly being watched, analyzed, Social media, it plays a huge role in that.
Oh, yeah.
It's like this pressure cooker, always on.
Always simmering.
Yeah, and it can really mess with you, your sense of self, your mental well-being. But we have to remember, even with all this going on, the fear, the uncertainty, there are stories of, like, real resilience, people pushing back against it all.
It's true. And to really understand those stories, we need to hear from the people living them.
Absolutely.
Like Daniel Jeffard. He runs this incredible Haitian restaurant in Springfield called Rose Gout Creole.
Nice. I'll have to check it out.
You would love it.
Yeah.
But picture this. His restaurant. Packed. People drove from all over. Not just for the food, though it's supposed to be amazing, but to show support, solidarity.
Wow. That's powerful.
It really is. And Jeff Hart himself, he's just so defiant. Like he says, and this is a quote, "We know who we are."
I love that.
There's no apology there.
Yeah.
No shame.
None.
Just this really strong sense of self.
Which is so important to hold on to, especially when you're facing this kind of pressure. And it reminds us that taking pride in where you come from, your heritage, doesn't mean you're not also a contributing member of society.
Totally.
Actually, Jeff Fard really emphasizes that. He says, we just want to work.
It's such a simple statement.
Right.
But it speaks volumes.
It challenges those stereotypes, the ones you hear about immigrant communities all the time.
Exactly.
And it gets at something so human, don't you think?
Definitely.
That desire for a better life.
Yeah.
The willingness to work for it.
Absolutely. It's something we can all relate to on some level. It really does, it makes you think about what it really means to build a life somewhere new and how fragile that can be when things get, political,
It's true. And it makes you wonder about that feeling of really belonging somewhere. And that's where Philomene Philiston's story, man, it really gets to you. She runs Creations Market.
Okay.
It's this Haitian grocery store.
Great.
It's like this hub for the community there. And I don't know if you've ever walked into a place and it instantly transported you, just the smells, the sounds.
Oh, actually, it's more than just groceries, right? It's a lifeline. It's culture. you know?
Especially now with everything going on.
Exactly. And Phylliston, she's hearing it all,
Yeah.
like firsthand,
Right.
from her community. And she says this, I heard a lot of people said they're going to leave. Think about that for a second.
Wow.
These families came to Springfield for a better life.
Right.
And now they're thinking of leaving because of all this.
It's heartbreaking. Honestly, when we talk about these big political things, it's easy to forget about the actual people, right?
The human cost, yeah.
Exactly.
And there's this one story Phylliston tells about a customer. It stayed with me. This woman, she's pregnant with her first child. And she's standing there in the market, and she's got tears in her eyes. And she said she doesn't know if she can raise a family there anymore. Can you imagine?
It makes you think about what you would do. Like, what happens when a place that's supposed to feel like home suddenly doesn't?
It's a huge question.
Yeah.
And it's one a lot of people in Springfield are facing, you know. And what gets me is Phylliston, she's got this, I don't know, this strength about her. Like when she was asked about, the possibility of Trump actually visiting Springfield.
Yeah.
She just says he has a right to come. He has his people here.
Huh. It's like she's not letting it shake her.
There's this defiance. Yeah, but it's also sad, you know.
Oh, definitely. It's a lot to carry.
It is. And it takes me back to something Rinaldi Dessalines said. He's the one who said Springfield was amazing before all this.
Right, right. Speaks 4 languages.
That's him.
Mm.
He described everything that's happening as like an earthquake, not only for the Haitian community, but for everybody.
It is like an earthquake. It's not just one little area.
It's those aftershocks, too.
Oh, for sure.
The lingering effects.
And that feeling that things just aren't right.
Exactly. And Dessalines talked about that feeling. He said, and I'm quoting here, something not good is going on in your environment. It's like the feelings in the air,
You can just tell something's off.
And it makes you realize, like, words, they have a real impact, don't they?
Yeah, they do. They really do. And it makes you think, about the responsibility we all have when it comes to the things we say, the stories we tell, Because those stories, they really have power. They shape how we see things, how we see each other even.
Dessalines, even though he said he wasn't, like, directly targeted, he said something that really stuck with me. He said, when you attack a culture of someone, it's normal. You're going to feel this kind of thing. Frustration when someone accused of something that you don't do in your culture. It made me think it's deeper than just politics.
It's like cultural gaslighting, almost.
Yeah.
Making people question their own experiences.
It's messed up.
And that can really mess you up, in your head.
It does. And it makes you think, with everything moving so fast these days, the news, social media, do we ever, like, really stop and think about who's on the other side of these stories we're reading,
Right. It's easy to get caught up in it all.
Yeah, the arguments.
The outrage. But we have to remember, behind it all, real people.
With families, with feelings.
Oh.
And when you target a whole community like that,
It's rough, man.
it can be devastating. That fear, that uncertainty, it lingers.
Oh, it does.
Long after the news cameras are gone.
It creates these ripples, like we were saying before. And not just in that community, in all of us, It divides us.
Yeah.
Makes us suspicious of each other. And that's tough to come back from.
You know that saying, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me?
Yeah.
I don't think that's true.
Not at all. Words have power, man.
They really do.
Yeah.
They can lift you up,
Yeah.
but they can also, they can hurt.
For sure. And that's why you got to be thoughtful. You got to listen to each other, really listen, and check yourself. What are my own biases? Because in the end, we're all we've got.
That's true.
Right.
But what really stood out to me through all of this was the resilience.
Yeah.
People like Jeff Frard, Phylliston, Dessalines, they're holding on to their pride, their culture.
It's inspiring, right?
It really is.
Even when things are tough, that hope, it hangs on. And maybe, just maybe, if we listen to these stories, if we hear these voices, we can start to understand each other a little better.
That's what it's all about. So next time you hear about, a community under fire, a group being targeted, take a second. Look past the headlines, past all the noise. Remember the real people at the heart of it. And ask yourself, what can I do? How can I be better? Because even a little bit of kindness can go a long way.